In this lecture, I am going to introduce you to the concepts of sustainability and sustainable design, which are the main themes of this course besides Solidworks. So initially, when an engineer is designing a product, say a product X, it was designed based upon the strength and in-service performance requirements only. And once the product X has met all the strength and in-service performance requirements, the next consideration was given to the form of the product, how the product looked like and how the product is feeling when we touch the product, and other things were the second consideration. Today, due to the increased environmental concern, a number of stringent environmental rules or regulations have been imposed on the products that are being designed nowadays. So what happens, the designers must also consider stringent environmental requirements addition to the strength and in-service performance requirements for a product. Especially they need to concentrate on how the product will be handled once the useful life of the product is over, or say after its death. Then during the useful life as well, the products must be conforming to a lot of environmental regulations, especially see in terms of energy. So the product that is designed nowadays or in recent times should be consuming as less amount of energy possible. It may be any form of energy. Let us say it may be electricity or it may be fuel. For example, if we take automobiles, fuel is the source of energy. If we take the electronics, electricity is the form of energy. So what happens is we should increase the efficiency of the products that we are designing so that they are going to reduce their energy consumption. Then they also have to reduce the pollution that are caused by these products. And again, during the production stage of this particular product, it should use as number of limited natural resources as possible. And the basic central question is, what will you do with the products after they reach end of their life or useful life, say death. So death of the product means once its useful life is over, we need to either discard the product or we need to disassemble the product and use it for remanufacturing, or we can also extract material by the process of recycling. We can handle the death of a product in number of ways. Engineering design is always inherently tied to the society and the needs, and it also develops over time, because as the society perspective, as the society needs, as the society priorities shift, the design of the product also is going to evolve over the time. And a basic example here you see is a Ford Mustang, which was designed in 1964, and this is the 2018 Ford Mustang. Initially, if we come to the gear shifting system, it used to be a manual system where you have a stick to change the gears manually. But right now in 2018, lot of people they prefer going for the auto gear system. So what happens, there will be a system which in turn will be shifting the gears on behalf of the human who is going to be driving the car. So what happens, over the time the society has changed, the priorities have shifted. So that is why the design also have shifted or changed. When the societies across the globe have pushed for high quality products that are less expensive in the years of 1980s and 1990s, we have developed the concepts such as design for assembly, design for manufacturing, and concurrent engineering. These concepts were applied to industrial production to produce products in a large or mass scale, so that products that are being produced are less expensive. And in order to maintain the quality, which is the second requirement for the societies, we introduced a concept called Six Sigma, and it was conceived and adopted to the industrial manufacturing to improve the product quality and also maintain the product quality. So when the societies began to push for the environmental awareness and concern, a term known as a green movement has made its way into the design. So the term design for sustainability, DFS, is termed, or the concept of DFS is termed. So the DFS concept is nothing but it extends the broader concepts of DFA, design for assembly, DFM, design for manufacturing, concurrent engineering, and Six Sigma. Its activities are to address the current environmental and society concerns. So what happens if we are going to apply the concept of DFS, or design for sustainability, the products that are being designed will be more environmentally friendly. The DFS just extends the concepts that we already have to get a product which is much more environmentally friendly. Then coming to the concept of sustainable design, it is nothing but a direct outcome of the strict regulations on the environment. So for example, this particular sustainable design, it limits the usage of natural resources and it also limits the landfills. So at the end of the useful life of the product, it just wants to recycle the product, or otherwise we can also use it through remanufacturing or upgrading of the product instead of just going it and dumping it in a dump pad or a landfill. It also restricts the usage of dangerous materials which may cause any health concerns and other such sort of factors. Then designers who are going to design sustainably must think hard about the product use and also disposal. So once the product is being used, the product should not create any health effects or environmental impacts, and after the useful life or death of the product also, it should not create any health effects or the environmental effects. So a good example is electronics and computer devices. So in recent years, the designers are trying to phase out components that are presenting some health hazards, and by replacing these particular materials with new materials which are more environmentally friendly and also cost effective. So basically the sustainable design addresses two major design phases in a product design. The first one is the during life phase or in service phase, and the second one is the afterlife or end of service phase. So what happens if you are going to do a sustainable design? You need to first look at, while the product is being used, how can you reduce the environmental impact of the product, and once after life also, the product should not impact the environment. We are going to talk about what is sustainable design during life. So what happens is, a product must meet a host of environmental and energy constraints. So for example, if we are going to come to the environmental constraints, what happens while we are using the product? It should minimize the pollution. For example, let us take automobiles. So automobiles with BS3 engine rating, they cause more pollution when compared to the automobiles of BS4 rating. So what happens when we are iterating or when we are improving the design? We are going to minimize the pollution that is caused by this particular automobiles, which is an example for unsustainable design. So what happens if the product is going to minimize its pollution? The greenhouse effects will be also reduced. So some of the pollution measures include carbon dioxide emissions and water pollution and air pollution. And then coming to the next term, what is known as the energy constraint, we should minimize the amount of energy that is being consumed by the product. For example, let us say we'll take the example of an automobile. Say if an automobile, X automobile is consuming some 1 gallon for 10 kilometers, then automobile Y is consuming for 10 kilometers, it is just consuming 0.5 gallons. So what happens is the energy is reduced between the X and Y product. Energy consumed by the product must also be minimized by making the product as efficient as possible. For example, in an automobile, if we are going to increase the mileage of the automobile, that is one form of a sustainable design. Then if we are going to design and produce sustainable products, they required three main concepts. One is the sustainable design concept, then the sustainable manufacturing concept, and the sustainable waste management concepts. So sustainable design plays a major role in determining about the sustainable waste management stage as well as the sustainable manufacturing stage as well. So while designing, if we are going to take some considerations into account, we are going to control everything during the sustainable manufacturing stage as well as the sustainable waste management stage as well. And then the next thing is, sustainable manufacturing is majorly controlled by the materials we use for the design. So what happens? Based upon the materials we used in our design, sustainable manufacturing is controlled by materials that are used, as the materials dictate the manufacturing process in which they can be produced. In practice, what happens is, the sustainability factor is the energy used for manufacturing a product and then transporting a product, and use of the energy while the product is in service. So what happens is, the major factor of concern for sustainability is the energy use. So while manufacturing, how much amount of energy is being used, and once it is manufactured, it should be transported from the manufacturing unit to the consumer. During these transportations, how much of energy it is going to consume, and once it reaches the consumer, when the consumer is using this particular product, how much energy it is going to consume. And also, in addition to all of this, once the consumer has used it and the death of the product has occurred, how much of energy is needed to dispose that particular product is also a concern in the sustainable design. In the next lecture, I am going to continue talking about the concepts of sustainability and sustainable design. And right now we have learned that material selection is one of the major factor which determines the sustainable design phase and sustainable manufacturing phase, as well as a sustainable waste management or say disposal phase of a product. Thank you.